I think, Mark, you've been making the rounds recently in various sort of crypto outlets. And so we're happy to talk to you today about some of your various pursuits in the space. How have things been going for you?
I mean, it's a learning process. I mean, you don't just walk in and know everything. So like anything else, it takes time. There's a lot of things happening in the space, obviously, not just, well, in each of those spaces, right? They're all different in their own way, and they're all connected in their own way, whether it's DeFi, NFTs, just basic blockchain applications, smart contracts, you name it. So I'm here learning my Solidity and just trying to figure it all out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Have you been doing much? Have you been diving in on the development side? You talk about Solidity.
I used to write software way back in the day. I used to write distributed database applications, and so I have a fundamental understanding how it all works. But it's changed a lot since then. So just trying to get arms around how smart contracts work, what's fungible and what's permanent, and what variables are there and all that kind of stuff, so I can get a better business understanding of applications.
Very impressive. I think you already know more about blockchain than me. I actually don't really know how to do Solidity programming.
We'll have to have the two of you in a hackathon just to see.
Who writes more bugs?
Yeah.
Yeah. It used to be back in the day, you could just start programming and your fingers did what your mind wanted it to do. Now I have to look to see everything, and every semicolon and every bracket and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, my programming days are over.
And the Solidity programming is actually very high risk. If you have a bug, there could be millions, a lot of money at stake. So it's actually very, very tricky.
Yeah. Well, any compiled, when I would program, any compiled language was a problem, right? So, always lots of hours trying to debug.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being with us today. I guess, do you mind going a little bit into your background, Mark, as it relates to the crypto space? I mean, we have some sense that you're actually not new to the space. What is your journey within crypto been like?
I mean, back when Coinbase opened up, and let me take a step back. I've always been a tech guy. I had a systems integration company that I built, and like I said, I wrote software, did distributed database applications, and so that gave me a fundamental understanding of everything that was going on. And so when crypto hit, I probably 2012, I think, is when Coinbase got started, and that's when I downloaded it. And started messing around with it, and people would just send you some Bitcoin. People would send you this or that, and then when Ethereum hit 2012 or whatever, I don't remember, 2010. Started just messing around and trying to understand that. And honestly, my orientation always was kind of conflicted with crypto, because I never saw it as the potential of being a currency. I saw it being a method of exchange. I understood blockchain, and like I said, I did distributed databases, so I saw the value there. But I would always give people shit, and because everybody was saying, Bitcoin's going to be a currency, and I was never a proponent of that. But and I just followed it and tracked it, and I never really sold anything that people would give me, as they would try to, get me to pimp things out and promote things. And so I managed to accumulate some things along the way. And then I even took some flyers on some things and have bought some things along the way, some Bitcoin and Ethereum over the years. Again, stuff that I just all held. And I would always get into battles with people that, Bitcoin's not going to be a currency. It's not going to be a currency. And I still feel that way. And then the whole thing went from it's a currency to it's a store of value. And, and that's what I would always say. Bitcoin is a store of value, no different than gold. It's worth what somebody would pay for it. Doesn't have a whole lot of utility. I'd rather have a banana if it came down to it, but it's still a store of value. And then what's really changed things is I got into messing more with smart contracts around NFTs. Then that's where things really started to really blast off for me when it came to crypto. Because with smart contracts, well, let me take a step back. So as I was reading and listening more about NFTs, more just recently over the last few months, I went to Mintable.app and decided just to mint some things and learn how they went. And I went to Rarible, and I went to OpenSea, and I went to others. And as I minted some things, the minute I saw the fact that you could save royalties and store royalty. I forget the standard for it, you know, but you could save a royalty into the block smart contract. That was the game changer in terms of me just diving in, because what that meant was any type of digital IP could be monetized, tracked, and every time there was a resale, the original creator could participate. And to me, that was the game changer that really opened up my eyes on NFTs in particular. And then you start digging in to see what the applications were and how they work. And, you know, you start getting into, you know, smart chains, Binance smart chains, and Ethereum, and how layer 1 works. And like I said, I worked with networks for years. We were a systems integrator. So I know, you know, back when we started AudioNet, when no one was knew what streaming was, you know, to deal with ways of presenting streaming and doing streaming across multi-networks. And so I understood the whole layer 1, layer 2, 3, 4 concept. And so I just started digging in and just seeing the rush of applications, the competition, the hype, you know, the challenges is interesting. But where there's interest, you know, you can start to see, like, just in the old days, you know, looking to write database applications to automate analog processes. That was one big step. Then you saw that move to the internet. And now with blockchain, I think, you know, we're a lot of underpinning got me.
Also, we've been through several of this. I think Mark knew sort of applications and products and things built with blockchain technology. What do you think is different about this time?
I think, well, what Mark just said is really eye-opening for me, to be honest. So I'm really crypto, as people, everybody knows, but I'm actually, so I actually think Bitcoin is a currency from the very beginning, and the smart card, the NFT part, actually didn't. I wasn't that deep into it, to be very honest, because I'm busy with Binance. So that's a really interesting aspect about like this new industry where things keep developing at a really breakneck speed, and different things attract different people. So that's really fascinating for me to learn. And it's kudos to Ethereum for Vitalik for inventing smart contract solidity, etc. So I think Binance smart chain is really benefiting from those inventions. Because look, the market is always this cycle. But within crypto, if you look at the cycles, every cycle is very different. Got a Bitcoin much earlier than me. I only learned about Bitcoin in 2013. There's a lot of other what we call altcoins back then, but most only actually Litecoin. 13 or 14 actually lasted. Most of the other Ethereum started for 13, 14, and then become popular in 2015. Same bull market. Ethereum ERC 20 a smart contract that big of but it was like, okay, ICO. And this time around, there's so many factors contributing to it now. And there's like that's number one, the inflation, quantitative easing, the stimulus packages in the traditional markets outside of crypto.
Talk about that too, because I don't think this is a hedge to any of that, right? I think it's completely independent, just like gold, right? I mean, a lot of the perception of crypto, gold has the story behind gold, right? As a store of value, as an alternative to hedging, you know. You know, and people say gold has intrinsic value and crypto does. Gold has no intrinsic value other than some basic manufacturing applications. When you know people assigning high value to gold jewelry is no different than people assigning high value to cryptocurrency, right? It's not a necessity. It's not a necessity.
Exactly. So I think now people are understanding that. And this time around, look, we have DeFi, we have NFTs, we have so much more. We have institutional treasury holding Bitcoin, and those are huge pools of money that's coming in. So I think each cycle we'll still go through bull and bear cycles.
Yeah,
that's just how markets work. So,
yeah.
but
this is going to be a huge bear market in NFTs. And look, we saw this with internet stocks too. In the early days of the internet, everybody jumped in, and it's really a spray and pray investment approach, right? Because you're trying to find out who the real players are. And you saw that with early days. Now people will mint anything, and if you have a following, people will buy it, right?
Yeah.
People will put out tokens, and if you can sell enough of them, if you can hype them enough, then people will buy them. And just like you're seeing the tokens go way up, and then they all kind of trade in parallel. The biggest difference between the days of the internet and when the internet bubble burst and what's happening with tokens is one, interest rates, and two, it's a lot easier to hype a token than it is to hype a stock. There's no SEC rules per se that prevent you from doing some of these things. And so you're right. There's going to be cycles, going to be drop. And at the end of the day, in my opinion anyways, the end will make a difference. And, the principles in play of, are they a good company doing smart things, make or break the company.
Awesome. Actually, with that, some of the sort of specify applications and NFT applications. Sorry?
It feels like I looked at all of them. Many more to go.
Awesome. Do you have favorite components of the DeFi ecosystem?
I don't want to really hype things at all because it's interesting because, again, going back to the early days of the internet, when I went on CNBC, I could watch the ticker. If I'm talking about stocks, I could watch the ticker and those stocks would be going up. And it's the same thing with tokens now with social media, right? People, I must have 20 wallets, right? And people, one of, where I minted some things, that's obviously going to be public. And so people look what I put in that wallet, and that's kind of my hype box, if you will. And so, I tried, the things that I've already talked about publicly are Injective, MFT, Matic, what's the other ones? And then I'm in Ethereum and Bitcoin. And then I bought some Phantom, but those are in those wallets. So people are going to be able to see that public anyways. And then there's some other ones where I've invested that I'm not ready to talk about yet that are in different wallets.
So out of those 6 that you mentioned, other than Bitcoin and Ethereum, they were all Binance Launchpad projects.
Yeah, I know. You guys invest in a lot. You guys do investing, and Coinbase does investing by spray and pray too, right? So they all have these foundations, and you give a little bit of money to everybody, which kind of proves the point that it's hard to pick winners and losers yet. You don't really know which ones are going to take off because it's not just the technology side, but it's the marketing side. You've got to get people to adapt. You've got to get people to develop. You've got to get people to accept them. You've got to get people to trade them. And that's also the unfortunate side because, which marketplaces or dexes that you trade on has an impact on, how people perceive a coin, which really doesn't necessarily reflect the underlying technology. And there's, and at layer 1, people are trying to do a whole lot of different things. And then better than most, the battle between, okay, what's going to happen with Ethereum at layer 1 versus, the layer 2 trying to amp up the transactions per second and dealing with those issues. Then there's sharding versus using all the different multiprocessor, all these different issues that everybody's trying to make technological determinations about, but it's still too early, right? Yeah. This is the only business where you kind of write an app, your own blockchain, let's just say a layer 1 application, and then you release a coin and you hype the shit out of it, not knowing if the application works or what the application implications are going to be, right? It's kind of a back-ass half-word approach to dealing with technology. And so that's part of the challenges because no matter what it is, the hype level is always up here because it almost has to be. And then the installation, the execution side is down here, and it takes years to find out.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happens to BNB. Like we launched it, we hyped it, we sold it first before we had a platform. So
it's crazy. Like you get people who you get influencers, right, who have no understanding of technology whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
Putting out talking about different tokens, and it has nothing to do with the actual application itself. What's going to happen, and so because writing layer 2, layer 3, layer 4 stuff is no different than writing any other software, right? And you're trying to look at applications. But the good news is, we're going to see a lot of applications that were SaaS applications in corporate America be moved over to the blockchain, and that's going to be very disruptive. And we're still seeing how to figure all that out. You're still trying to see, like Zen or Zendesk or Twilio or whatever. Pick any application that's multi-billion-dollar stocks that can you replicate them and do a better job and simplify it on the blockchain? Look at NFTs. There's no, the whole college textbook market, right? That all should be digitized and on NFTs. Is it big enough for someone to walk in and buy McGraw-Hill and say, you know what, we're done doing this old physical book thing. It's crazy that people take notes in a physical book and then take it to a used bookstore or ship it off to a website that then exchanges it for money or whatever. That's 1937 technology. And so why aren't all those digitized NFTs when you're done with the book, your digital version of the book, you just sell it, right? But the good news is the original publisher gets to share in the resale value. Those are all the changes that are going to happen. And so what I'm looking for is the fundamental technology underneath it that allows me to say, okay, these are the guys that are going to be the winners in this application, this application, this application, and just try to ignore all the hype, even though it's fun to speculate, right? Doesn't matter if it's a Top Shot, a BNB, Matic, INJ, that's all fun. Doggy coin, like I tell my son, it's all fun, but it's real money.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And actually, I guess, Mark, as you think about kind of the current state of applications and kind of what's appealing to you, what do you see as the things that could be improved, or how do you think we get to that next level?
Well, first, there's this push-pull between Ethereum and everybody else, right? And so there's a race right now, and CZ, you know this better than anybody, right?
Yes.
What scalability?
No, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Nothing at all, right? No. Nothing at all. So scalability matters because a lot of these applications are going to be dependent on can you scale? And, some people that live Ethereum, 2.0 is going to make it work. Others say layer 2, we can work around it and we'll bridge. You guys have with Smart Chain say, look, on one hand, I see what you're doing and it's smart in that with Smart Chain, just bring every application, right? Something's going to stick. It's a numbers game. So you just throw everything at it and you hope something sticks, and then that scales. And then, you're very big on messaging, and too, because it's reality. This you see with BSC. That's part of the push pull. Trying to figure out, can there be multiple? Will all the evolve? They can coexist, so they can coexist. Just like there's different, just like when you do types of neural networks, there's GANs, there's CNNs, right? There's reinforcement that applies. I do a lot of computer vision, and so it's still in markers that make them look really powerful, and that's part of the challenge.